Senator Johnston.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also, like Senator Mitchell, have no formal standing to be up here, and as Senator Mitchell's already reminded me, I have a tie and a shirt that don't match either, so I'm already in double bad stead. But I do want to just make a couple of comments because I'm so moved by this resolution and by the folks that are here today, which is, I think we all have spent a great deal of time reciting and hearing and thinking about the lines that open the Declaration of Independence, which is, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all are created equal. And there was no doubt that Thomas Jefferson had the vision when he wrote that to realize that was probably the most dramatic promise ever made in the history of civilization when it was written. And that to write that promise was going to be something dramatically different than to deliver on that promise. And Jefferson, knowing that, put in place the last line of the Declaration, which is very seldomly quoted, but I think by far the most important. And that line says, in order to ensure this declaration, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. And what Jefferson knew is that if that promise of equality were ever to become true, it would be because there would be times in history where men and women would stand up to say, I will give my life, my fortune, or my sacred honor to make sure that this promise actually turns out to not be an aspiration, but a reality. And what we know is that throughout the history of this country, people have borne that burden of equality differently. Right? There have been moments where it really wasn't true. And what it took was the courage of whether it was the Massachusetts 54th who took Fort Sumter in the Civil War, whether it was the 9-year-old girls and boys who walked into fire hoses on the Edmund-Pettus Bridge, or whether it was the courageous Tuskegee Airmen who said, we will take the step to pledge our lives. And if you think back to this debate, if you think back to the idea of we hold these truths to be self-evident, that debate had gone on for centuries, right? Is it really true that all are created equal? Well, maybe not, because some of us have such hard upbringings and some of us really grew up in poverty, and so maybe really everyone's not college material. Maybe everyone's really not able to serve in the US military. Maybe it's really not true that we could trust a black man in this country to have the courage or the stamina or the patriotism or the intelligence to fly one of America's most expensive planes in one of our most expensive missions. And what did these folks say? They said, you know what, that debate has gone on for centuries. Let me answer it for you. Put me up in the air. Put me up in the air. And what happened? They never lost a single bomber. And what happened after that? Nothing else could happen but that Truman would have integrated the Air Force after that. Nothing else could have happened that the Civil Rights Act would pass after that. Nothing else could have happened but that in our lifetime we would see the first black president inaugurated. Why? Because that debate was once and for all over. Once they took to the skies and proved that in every way, at every point, in the highest risk moments, people of any color and any background could serve this country, America had finally delivered on that oldest promise. So I'm going to ask Colonel Smith and Lieutenant Colonel Mosley to stand, please, one more time. And I want to say to both of you gentlemen that Thomas Jefferson had the vision to write it, but you had the courage to live it. And so I want to thank you for making sure that my 3 children will grow up in a country where we know that all are created equal is not just an aspiration, it's a reality. Thank you, gentlemen.